Good morning, boys and girls. Today we are starting with another menu for semester 5. Our menu for today is smoked tomato and basil soup, chicken Maryland, which are being served along with its accompaniments. So we have croquet potato, we have bacon rasher, we have grilled tomato, banana fritter and corn gallets. And for the vegetarians, we are making smoked tomato and basil soup, we are making a raw jackfruit Maryland, and we are making croquet potatoes, corn gallets, banana fritters and grilled tomato. So let's look at the division of ingredients and let's look at the plan of work.
So for the smoked tomato and basil soup, we've got some tomatoes, onion, basil and garlic, along with which we've got some flavoring ingredients. For the chicken Maryland, we've deboned the chicken. These are the ingredients for the marination. For the jackfruit Maryland, we've got a raw jackfruit that we're going to process. Next, we're going to look at the ingredients for the accompaniment. So we've got some bacon for the rashers, we've got raw banana for the fritters, we've got corn for the gallets, and we've got grilled tomatoes. Next, we have some potatoes that we're going to convert into croquet potatoes. Here you can see some ingredients that we're going to use for plate presentation. So we look at the processing as we go along. So next we're going to look at the plan of work. It's important that we occupy the gas ranges at all times. So we start working on the potatoes. Peel the potatoes and put them in water. Once we've peeled all the potatoes, then roughly cut the potatoes. Once we've cut the potatoes, we are going to put it back in the water. Drain the water out. Add some fresh water. Add some salt and put it for boiling. This might take around 10 to 12 minutes for the potatoes to boil. Next, we start working on the vegetables for the tomato soup. So we've got some onions. We're going to just roughly cut the onions and transfer it into a pie dish. Next, we're going to work on the tomatoes. Again, roughly cut the tomatoes and transfer it into the pie dish. We've got some garlic that needs to be added. So we're going to just roughly crush the garlic. No need to chop it. We're going to puree it later. So add it to the pie dish. To this, we are going to add some fresh basil leaf, we're going to add some salt, we're going to add some olive oil and just give it a light mix. And this is going to go inside the oven at 180 degrees Celsius for around 12 to 15 minutes at 0% humidity till the tomatoes get nicely roasted. So now coming back to our gas range, as you can see the potatoes are boiling. Just lower the flame and let them simmer for around 8 to 10 minutes. Next, we start by marinating the chicken. So we prepare the marinade first and then we start processing the chicken. So in a steel bowl, I've taken some salt, pepper and sugar. I've added some mustard paste. To this, I'm going to add some mixed herbs. You can use rosemary, thyme, dried form separate. But I've got some mixed herbs I'm adding here. To this, I'm going to add some oil. The oil will help in blending or mixing the marinade together. For flavoring, I've got some Worcestershire sauce. So around 2 to 3 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce for the entire chicken. And again around 10 to 15 ml of vinegar. So 1 cap is around 10 ml. So just mix all the ingredients together and our marinade for the chicken is ready. The same marinade is going to be used for the jackfruit as well. So now that the marinade is ready, it's time to go back to the gas range. As you can see here, the potatoes are cooked, so it's time to drain the potatoes. This can be done at the sink as well. So after draining the potato, it's time to dry the potato. So put the potatoes back in the pan and on the flame. This way all the excess moisture that is sticking to the surface of the potatoes will get dried off. So as you can see here, the excess starch is sticking to the base of the pan. We will turn off the flame now and using the back of the round spoon, just lightly mash the potatoes. Next, we will pass the potatoes through a soup strainer. So keep a bowl underneath so that the mashed potato can be collected and pass the potatoes through a soup strainer. It's time to season the potatoes. So we are adding some salt, pepper, and we're going to add some nutmeg powder. So we've got a grater. We are freshly grating the nutmeg. Then just lightly mix the potatoes and our potato mixture for the croquet potatoes are done. Ideally, for the mixture of croquet potatoes, we would add some egg yolk, which will provide a very nice binding. But since we are keeping it vegetarian, we have not added any egg. So now that our tomatoes are roasted, we are going to remove it from the oven and get rid of all the basil leaves that have darkened. Okay, just lightly mix the tomatoes, making sure that none of the tomatoes are sticking to the base. And we will be using these tomatoes for preparing the soup at a later stage. So let's move on to our next step, which is jointing and deboning the chicken. So we start off by removing the neck of the chicken, removing the winglets, making a crisscross on the back, dividing the skin, and we joint the chicken first. Once we've joined the chicken, then we're going to work on deboning the chicken. So remove the skin of the chicken leg. So we start off by deboning the leg. So remove the skin that is not needed. Once the skin is out, then we start off by scraping the thigh bone. So from the inside, you're going to scrape the thigh bone, putting the knife in between the bone and the flesh. We're going to remove the bone. Holding the bone, just scrape the bone, making sure that all the flesh is off the bone. Then following the bone, we cut it towards the leg bone. Scrape the bone again. Now in case of Maryland, we need a bone attached to the flesh. This aids us in marinating the chicken. It aids us in crumbing the chicken. So as you can see here, a small piece of bone has been attached to the flesh. That will be useful when we are marinating and crumbing the chicken. Alright. So debone the chicken. Once we've deboned the chicken, then we will just evenly distribute the meat. As you can see here, there are small pockets or small holes that are left out. So using the back of the knife, just flatten the meat out slightly, making sure that the meat is evenly distributed. This will help us in cooking evenly as well. So once deboning of the leg is done, we start working on the deboning of the chicken breast. So get rid of the skin again. As you can see here, there's only one bone attached to the chicken breast. So we will just French the chicken bone and make sure that all the flesh from the bone is removed. Once we've done the Frenching of the chicken breast, then we are going to just make a butterfly cut. So just place the chicken, and from the broad side of the chicken, just open up the chicken breast. So as you can see here, from the broad side of the chicken, I'm just opening up to make a butterfly cut. So by making a butterfly cut, you will make sure that the meat is evenly distributed and at the same time it's nice and thin. So when we crumb fry it and deep fry, the chicken breast will cook evenly. We've got some chicken supreme as well, so we are going to just stick it to the chicken breast using the back of the knife. We will flatten the meat out, and it's time for marination. So place all the joints or the deboned chicken into the marination. Now the chicken may sit in the marinade for around half an hour to almost 2 hours, depending on how much time you have to prepare the menu. So you can leave it at the lower deck of your table while it is marinating. If you're marinating for a little longer, then you can store it in the refrigerator. So here I've broken down the bones into smaller pieces. I am preparing a brown sauce which will be served along with the chicken. So here, heat up a pan and add some oil and butter. Once the oil and butter is nicely heated, then you will add the chicken bones inside and brown the bones. Using a flat spoon, just stir the bones, making sure that the bones are evenly browned. The bones will take around, again, 8 to 10 minutes for them to brown. So keep stirring them on a medium to high flame. And while the bones are browning, we will come back to our table and work on the mirepoix vegetables. So we've got some onion, carrot and celery. Again, just roughly cut the onion, carrot and celery and transfer them onto a plate. Once the bones are browned, then we will add the onion, carrot and celery. So as you can see here, the bones are browned lightly, so I've added the onions. The onions will release the moisture, making sure that any part of the bone or any part of the flesh that is sticking to the base will come out. So just give it a light mix, and next we shall add the carrot and the celery. So once you've added the mirepoix vegetables, it's time to add the butter and the flour and the tomatoes. So first we need to cut the tomatoes. Again, the tomatoes are going to be used for the sauce. So just roughly cut the tomatoes, no need to finely chop them. Mirpur vegetables have also released a good amount of flavor. So I'm adding some butter here and I'm going to add some flour. So the butter and the flour here will prepare a roux or will form a roux and will help in thickening the brown sauce that I'm preparing. So just give it a light mix, making sure that the flour browns a little. And once the flour is lightly browned, then we will add the other flavoring. So as you can see here, I've got some garlic that I'm adding now. Once after the garlic, we are going to add the tomatoes and some sage that I have. So any fresh herb that you have in the kitchen can be used for making the brown sauce. So here I've added some fresh sage and give it a light mix and then add around half a liter of water and let it simmer on a low flame till it reduces for around 20 to 25 minutes. For additional flavoring, we are going to add some bay leaf, peppercorns and some nutmeg powder. So once the brown sauce is ready, we are going to strain the brown sauce. So traditionally, the sauce that is served along with chicken Maryland is a derivative of brown sauce where we add cream to the brown sauce. Alright, so once our brown sauce is ready, we are going to just strain the brown sauce and keep it aside. We will be adding cream at a later stage. We will check the seasoning then and we are going to serve it along with the chicken Maryland. So now that the brown sauce is ready, we are going to keep the brown sauce at the lower deck of our table. And it's time to occupy the gas ranges. So on one gas range, I've kept water for boiling the pumpkin for the pumpkin puree. And on the other gas, I'm preparing the tomato soup. So for preparing the tomato soup, I'm going to prepare a white roux. So heat the butter. Once the butter is heated, then we are going to add the refined flour. And once the refined flour is added, just cook to form a white roux. Once the roux is ready, then add all the vegetables that were roasted for the tomato soup into the pan, add some water and allow it to simmer. Next, it's time to prep the pumpkin for the pumpkin puree. So get rid of the pumpkin peel and just dice the vegetables roughly. We are going to prepare a puree. So dice the vegetables and transfer it onto a plate. Going back to the gas range, as you can see here, the tomatoes have started to simmer. So just give it a light mix and allow this to simmer for around 10 to 15 minutes till the tomatoes become nice and soft. And simultaneously on the other gas, once the waters come to a boil, add the pumpkin inside. Add some salt for the seasoning. Add some sugar to help retain the color and for the texture. So once the pumpkin is cooking, we will come back to our table and start slicing the green tomatoes. So using a mandolin slicer, we are slicing the green tomatoes evenly. Once the tomatoes are sliced, we are going to line them on a lid. So apply some oil onto the lid and then just line the tomatoes onto the lid. Sprinkle some salt and pepper to the tomatoes. That will help in releasing the moisture. And then we are going to roast it in the oven at around 150 degrees Celsius, 0% humidity for around 7 to 8 minutes. So going back to the gas range, as you can see, the tomatoes are cooking. So I'll just add sugar towards the end of the cooking process. Simultaneously, we'll check the pumpkin. The pumpkin seems soft, but it needs a little more cooking, so we let it cook on a slow flame. Next, we go back to the table and start processing the jackfruit for the jackfruit Maryland. Now, processing the jackfruit can be a little tricky. The sap that comes out from the jackfruit is very sticky. So we need to apply some oil to the knife before we start processing. Similarly, if you're not using gloves, then you have to apply oil to the hands as well. So we remove the peel. And going back to the gas range to show you, the tomatoes are done. The pumpkin is also cooked, so we've strained the pumpkin. We'll puree it at a later stage. So now processing the jackfruit, we'll cut the jackfruit into half. We need to take out steaks that matches the chicken Maryland. So we are taking out thin steaks from the jackfruit. As you can see here, the center core of the jackfruit is something that is very sturdy or very hard. So using a cutter, we will remove the center core, but we have to be careful so that we don't disintegrate the jackfruit into small pieces. So we'll be taking out 1-inch thick steaks from the jackfruit. Again, you have to be very careful when you're cutting the jackfruit. It tends to disintegrate or break. So as you can see here, we've got the jackfruit steaks kept ready. Now using a round cutter, I have removed the center core of the jackfruit. This is something that holds the jackfruit together, so you have to be very careful. Once the jackfruit has been processed, we are going to put it in the marinade and leave it in the marinade for at least half an hour to an hour. So once the jackfruit has been marinated, we will cover it and leave it at the lower deck of our table. So next we go on to preparing the bacon rasher. Now instead of a bacon rasher, I'm preparing a bacon crisp that I can use for plate presentation. So I'm using a back of a pie dish and I'm going to line the bacon. Similarly, I will use another pie dish, place the pie dish on top and apply some weight, and this will go inside the oven. So this needs to roast in the oven at around 160 degrees Celsius for around 15 to 20 minutes. Now since the tomatoes were also going inside the oven, we put them together. So next we start working on the pumpkin puree. The pumpkin which has been boiled has simply been pureed along with some water, and we're just going to pass it through a soup strainer. In case we need a lighter color, we might add some cream to it. Otherwise, we just check the seasoning and the pumpkin puree is ready for plating. So next we're going to work on the soup. Now that we've pureed the soup mixture or the tomatoes for the soup, it's time to strain the soup. Once it's been passed through a soup strainer is when we are going to add some enriching agents. So here to the tomatoes we are adding some cream. Again, we will add cream part by part. If we add too much cream, the color of the soup will become too light. So here I've added a tablespoon of cream. Just whisk it in. Once we whisk the soup, just check the seasoning. We've already added salt, pepper and sugar at the beginning while the tomatoes were cooking. So check the seasoning again, check the consistency, and we are good to go. Okay, keep this aside for later. So as you can see here, the tomatoes are out from the oven, the bacon is out from the oven. So just collect the bacon, the grilled tomatoes and the pumpkin puree onto a plate, and which will be later used for plate presentation. Keeping the plate aside, we work on our next garnish, which is Parmesan crisp. So I'm mixing some Parmesan powder with some water to make into a paste, and then I'm going to spread it on a sill pad. Using an offset spatula, I'm going to just spread the Parmesan out, and this goes inside the oven at 150 degrees Celsius for around 15 to 20 minutes. So now it's time to smoke the soup. So we've got a burning piece of charcoal that I put in a pie dish. Put some oil on top and cover it with a lid. Preferably put some weight on top to prevent any smoke from escaping, and leave it inside for around 10 to 12 minutes. Next we start working on the bananas for the banana fritter. So we have just cut the ends. I'm going to peel the banana. This is a raw Rajeli banana that I'm using. So peel the banana and then we are going to cut it into roundels. Once we cut them into roundels, we line them on a plate and apply some salt and pepper to the bananas. Just make sure that they're evenly spread, and we keep it aside for the moisture to release. So next we are working on another garnish here with cherry tomatoes. So using the knife, we are just making a crisscross on one side of the cherry tomatoes. And then we are going to blanch the cherry tomatoes in oil. When we blanch it in oil, you will see that the tomatoes will become nice and soft. At the same time, the skin will come out or leave from the tomatoes. Next we have the Parmesan crisp that is ready. I'm just going to trim the Parmesan crisp and keep it onto a plate of garnishes. Earlier I was planning to make a strip of Parmesan that I wanted to use for garnishing, but later at the time of plating I realized that an abstract shape looked even better. So for now I have kept the Parmesan aside, and at the time of plating I'm just going to lightly break the Parmesan. Next we are working on the corn gallets. So for the corn gallets, now ideally the recipe for corn gallets call for cream style corn along with some egg, some flour and some salt, pepper. But here we are avoiding the egg and we are adding some baking powder instead. That will give it a nice fluffy texture. So we added some salt and pepper. Now mix the salt and pepper well, to which I've added some refined flour and some baking powder. So next we are going to add some water here to this mixture to make it nice and smooth. And after we've added the water, we are just going to mix it again so that it forms into a batter, a thick batter, from which we can take out small pellets, and this can go inside the oil for frying. Simultaneously, we are going to coat the raw banana, with refined flour. As you can see, when we added salt and pepper, it has released the moisture, and it helps the refined flour to stick to it. All right. So next we are finishing the sauce that we are going to serve along with chicken Maryland. So here we have the jus that we had prepared earlier, to which I'm adding cream. Again, add cream part by part. Once the cream has been added, we will check the consistency and keep it aside. The same can be done with a vegetable brown sauce that we prepare, that can be served along with the jackfruit Maryland. So now it's time to get ready with the accompaniments for the Maryland. So we start by frying the banana fritters in oil. We just coated the banana with refined flour. So fry it in oil for around 3 to 4 minutes till the bananas become nice and crisp and they get a nice golden color. At the same time, making sure that the bananas are cooked. So once the banana crisps are ready, or once the banana fritters are ready, we are going to remove it from the oil and we are going to collect it in a plate with an absorbent paper or a paper towel. So next we start frying the corn gallets. So again, we are going to make small pellets or small balls of the corn and we are going to put it inside in the oil. Again, these will take around 4 to 5 minutes for the corn gallets to get ready. So as you can see here, they need to be cooked well and at the same time nice and golden color. Again, collect them on a plate with the bananas. So next we are going to blanch the tomatoes that are going to be used for garnishing in this tomato soup. So we are just going to blanch the tomatoes in hot oil and then remove it, and then using a tweezer we are going to just pull out the skin and make it look like what you see in the picture here. Next we start working on the croquet potatoes. So again we will dust some refined flour on the table and then start rolling the potatoes. Again, the croquet potatoes need to be of the shape of a cork of a wine bottle. So we are just going to roll the potatoes and then using either a knife or a dough scraper, we are just going to cut the potatoes. Okay. Once we've divided the potatoes, so as you can see here with the mixture that we have, we'll get around 8 to 10 croquets that can be prepared. So I'm just working with a few here. So we have to individually roll the croquets or the potatoes here to get the shape. Using the flat side of the dough scraper, just roll it and then tapping on both the sides, making sure that they are evenly shaped or even cylinders. Once the shaping is done, we are going to dust it with some refined flour, so you can directly transfer it onto a plate with refined flour. Get rid of the excess refined flour and then we dip it in the slurry that is prepared with refined flour and water. Now ideally for croquet potatoes, we would have used some egg wash and then breadcrumb. But since we are making a vegetarian version of croquet potatoes, we are dipping it in a slurry with refined flour. So remove the potatoes from the slurry and then transfer onto a plate with dried breadcrumbs. Again, using your dry hand, I'm just going to cover the potatoes and make sure that they are evenly coated with the breadcrumbs and keep them aside on a plate. Once we are done coating all the croquets is when we take it back onto the table and try to reshape it, making sure that all the croquets look even and they are all of similar sizes. So once they are reshaped, you will transfer it onto a plate and we will keep it in the refrigerator till we are ready to fry the potatoes. So next we start by crumb coating the jackfruit that has been marinating for almost an hour. Okay, so we are going to dust it in refined flour. Once we've dusted it in refined flour is when we will transfer it onto a slurry with refined flour and water. So again, we are going to work on one jackfruit at a time. So dip it in the slurry, and once we've dipped it in the slurry is when we are going to coat it with dried breadcrumbs. And make sure that the slurry is evenly distributed, the breadcrumbs are evenly distributed. Each and every part of the jackfruit is covered with the dried breadcrumb. For the breadcrumb to stick to the slurry, we can just slightly press the jackfruit against the breadcrumb, thereby making sure that the breadcrumbs are nicely stuck to the slurry and it holds on when we fry. Again, just tap the excess breadcrumb out to prevent the oil from getting brown or dark. Once we've crumb coated all the jackfruits is when we are going to collect it on a plate and keep it aside. So now we start off by frying the croquet potatoes. So once the oil is nice and hot, drop the croquet potatoes inside the oil. Again, we will not put the frying spoon right away. Slowly we will put the frying spoon in and check whether the croquet potatoes are frying well. So once we have a nice golden color, we'll transfer it onto a plate with some paper towel. So next we are going to start off with the frying of the jackfruit for the Maryland. So again, drop in 2 or 3 jackfruits inside the hot oil, and we will fry it till it gets a nice golden color. Again, the crumb would be cooked, but the jackfruit will take a little extra time for it to cook, because the jackfruit is slightly a tougher vegetable. So what we will do is we will transfer it onto a tray or a pie dish, and this will go inside the oven at around 160 or 180 degrees Celsius for around 10 to 12 minutes till the jackfruit becomes nice and soft from inside. So our next step is to start crumbing the chicken for the Maryland. So again, dip the chicken in the marinade, get rid of the excess marinade, and then dust it with some refined flour or seasoned flour. Okay, again get rid of the excess flour by just moving it, and then we drop it inside the egg wash. Again, work with one piece of chicken at a time. So again, dust it in refined flour and then dip it in egg wash. Once it's been coated well with the refined flour and the egg wash is when it will go inside the breadcrumbs. Again, make sure that the chicken is well coated with the breadcrumbs, otherwise the meat, if it directly exposes inside the oil, will turn dry or dark. Okay, so coated with the refined flour, coated with the egg wash, and then with the breadcrumb. Once we've coated it with the breadcrumb, again you can put it on the table and make sure that the shape of the chicken is nice. At the same time, you can tap out to get rid of the excess breadcrumb. Next, it's ready. It's time to fry the chicken inside the oil. So again, put 1 or 2 pieces of chicken inside the oil. Again, this will take around 7 to 8 minutes or 8 to 10 minutes for the chicken to get a nice golden color. At the same time, for the chicken to cook from inside. In case the oil is too hot, the crumbs will fry and it will become nice and golden, but the chicken will remain raw. In that case, we'll have to cook the chicken inside the oven. So we are working on another set of garnishes. So here we have some zucchini yellow squash that we are taking out or cutting out into thin strips. So using the peeler, we are just going to take out thin strips of the zucchini and yellow squash. At the same time, using a mandolin slicer, I am taking out thin strips of the red radish. Now all the zucchini, yellow squash and the red radish have to be blanched in boiling water for around 2 minutes, and then it will be put in ice cold water to retain a very nice color. So now that all our elements are ready, let's look at the plate presentation. So we start off by presenting the soup. So today what we are doing is we are using a big mug that we are using for plate presentation for the soup. So reheat the soup, check the consistency of the soup, and then pour the soup. Again, we are going to fill up 3/4 of the cup with soup. Using a paper napkin, we will just clean the sides, making sure that there are no stains of the soup on top. Next, what we are going to do is we are going to place the Parmesan crisp. Again, if you have a thin strip of the Parmesan crisp, we can place it at the center or on one side. But here I'm just going to break it with hand, give it an abstract shape. And the idea here is to fill up all the other elements that you see in front on top of the Parmesan crisp. So I'm going to place 2 or 3 cherry tomatoes that I've prepared. So once the cherry tomatoes have been placed, we are going to fill up the Parmesan crisp with edible flowers and basil leaves. In order to know more about the edible flowers, please go back to or refer to the video that we've prepared on edible flowers or garnishes to get the names. So here, as you can see, I'm placing a pansy here. There are other edible flowers that we've discussed in the video. So fill up the Parmesan crisp with the edible flowers and the basil leaves. Once we are done filling up the Parmesan crisp is when we are ready to serve the soup. Now, in case of a restaurant style setup where we are serving multiple portions of this soup, you can keep the Parmesan crisp ready with the edible flowers and the garnishes kept. And as soon as the order is announced, we can just pour the hot soup into the cup, place the Parmesan crisp and serve the soup. At the same time, as you can see, this is a very different style of plate presentation where any of the elements of garnish is actually touching the soup. It's placed on top of the cup, and when the customer is ready to eat, he can just use a spoon to break the Parmesan crisp and take it out from the soup and eat. So next we move on to the plate presentation for the main course. So this is the jackfruit along with the zucchini and yellow squash. We have the accompaniments, the croquet potatoes, the banana fritters, the corn gallets, and we've got some grilled tomato, and we've got some dill leaves and the pumpkin puree. So for plating of the main course, we are using a very different kind of a plate. This is a broken tile that we found. Okay, so it had a very abstract shape, a slightly triangular circular shape. So we are using this again. In many restaurants you will find that different kinds of serviceware are being used for plate presentation. So we are using a tile here. Again, place the jackfruit Maryland on one side, and then make a straight line using the grilled tomatoes, and then place the croquet potatoes, maybe two portions being served as two pieces being served as one portion. So place two croquet potatoes, place the banana fritters here and there, place the corn gallets here and there. At the same time, we've got the pumpkin puree, we've got the dill leaves. Yeah, so all the elements have to be placed. Again, as you can see here, there is an array of brown colors that we are using on the plate. Okay, so it looks nice. At the same time, to break the monotony of the brown colors, we've got some zucchini and yellow squash that we are just going to swirl up and place it on the plate. Again, you can use one or two. It just breaks the monotony. It makes it look nice. Gives a very nice bright color to the plate with all the brown elements. You have some nice green and yellow strips that you find. At the same time, we've got some red radish, so we've placed the red radish. It's time to place the pumpkin puree. So we're going to place around 5 or 6 dots of the pumpkin puree, and once we've placed the pumpkin puree, we are going to top it up with some fresh dill leaves. As you can see, they are nicely opened up. So this is our plate presentation for the jackfruit Maryland with its accompaniments. Now it's time for us to look at the plate presentation for the chicken Maryland with the accompaniments. So again, here a slightly different style of plate presentation where I will be placing all the accompaniments and the elements of garnish on the plate, and the main course, that is the chicken Maryland, will be served on the side. And once it goes in front of the customer, the server or the customer will help themselves by placing the chicken Maryland onto the plate along with the serving sauce. So the idea here is the main course is being served separate, and all the elements that you want along with the chicken is being put on the plate and it's going in front of the customer. So here what we've done is we've taken the main course plate and we've made a ring of the grilled green tomato, and we've placed the croquet potatoes on top of the tomato on the edge, along with which we've placed a few pieces of the banana fritters and the corn gallets on both the ends. And then to fill in the gaps, what we are doing is we are placing strips of the zucchini and yellow squash along with the red radish that we've blanched. So we're going to place all the elements, all the garnishes along with the pumpkin puree, and once that is ready, we are going to place the chicken. So we might cut the chicken into half or 1/3 depending on the size of the chicken piece, and then we are going to place it on another platter along with the serving sauce that we've prepared. So once we are almost done, we are going to just place the bacon crisp that we have prepared, and our plate that is going to go in front of the customer is almost ready. And on the other plate, we are going to just place the chicken. Okay, so around 2 or 3 pieces of the chicken that we've cut has to be placed, and we are good to go. So this is our plate presentation for the chicken Maryland, along with the serving sauce that we've prepared, that is traditionally served along with chicken Maryland. So hope you like the video and the plate presentations. Thank you for watching.